1.
So before we begin our next unit, I want to do a little bit of review of slope, which is something that I know you covered in your algebra classes. So first of all, what is slope? Well, slope is nothing more than a measurement of steepness. Let's use a better pen so you can see that better. A measurement of steepness. That's all it does. It measures how steep a line is. You see slopes used on roads. We talk about the grade of a road. That's how steep it is. Slope of a mountain. We can talk about how steep the mountain slope is. So slope, when you first learned it, you probably learned it as rise over run. And that's exactly what we're doing. The slope is a steepness that compares how high you rise over how far you run. The other ways you've seen it possibly is this y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And that's how we can find it when we've got problems that look like this, where I've got points on here. Usually these are going to be numbers instead of just y1 and y2. But the little ones, remember, tell you that this is the x and y of one point, and these tell you that the x and y of another point. These are not squared. That's sub 2 and sub 1. And it's just telling you the number of the y. This is my second y, this is my first y. In other places, you may even see it written shorthand that looks like this, okay? And in your science classes, you may have seen this. That's delta. It's just a Greek letter, and it usually means the change. So delta y over delta x means the change in y over the change in x. So if you want to read that as the change in y over the change in x. And that's what's telling me I'm subtracting, because remember, whenever you make change at the store, you're subtracting. So when I look at these problems here where I've got these lines given like that, I'm going to be using my equation. Now you could count over, rise and run. I could rise and run. Same idea. But the way I would actually calculate how high up I go is I take the top y minus the lower y. And how far over I go, I take the ending x minus the beginning x. And that's exactly where we get this formula from. Okay? So this is what's known as a positive slope because it's moving upwards as you read from left to right. This one's a negative slope because it's going downwards from left to right. Let's see what you remember about slope. Here's what I want you to do. Take these four graphs and tell me, is the slope of the line positive, negative, 0, or undefined? Okay, so based on these four graphs here, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so you've seen that this one here, it's a flat line. A flat line has a slope of 0. Okay, now that doesn't mean it has no slope. 0 is an actual number. It has no rise and it has a run. Well, anytime I take a 0 and divide by a number, that always equals 0. This one, again, I'm going upwards from left to right. So that's a positive slope. On that one, it's going downwards as I read left to right. So that's a negative slope. And this one's interesting because it's straight up and down. It's a vertical line. So that means it has no run, but it does have a rise. Well, you can't divide by 0. So that's going to be undefined. We call it undefined or no slope. Okay? So a vertical line has no slope. Horizontal line has a slope of 0. Okay? So that's pretty simple. And like I said, you probably talked about that earlier. In fact, we even mentioned these vertical lines and horizontal lines when we were doing reflections. So it's something that we've already seen before. So let's take a look at some more problems real quickly. Determining the slope of a line, very easy to do. I just need to find my 2 points. Now with one like this, you could actually just count it. The rise is going upwards, so it's rising 1, 2, 3, 4. So a rise of 4, a run of 1, 2. But it's going backwards, right? So that's a negative 2. So when I look at my slope is rise over run, 4 over negative 2. We always simplify. So that's actually going to simplify to a negative 2. And that's what we call our slope. By the way, slope, you may remember from your algebra class, is m. Why do they use m? I have no idea, but they've decided m is the letter for slope. So when I look at my next problem, the line through these points, I want to find the slope. What a lot of people like to do is they'll label these x1, y1, x2, y2. That helps them keep track of which one is which. So my slope formula, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So that's going to be negative 5 minus a 3 and 5 minus 7. Watch your arithmetic, okay? Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. That simplifies to a positive 4. Negative divided by negative is positive. So the slope is positive 4. Okay. This one, let's do the same thing. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Maybe I'll label my points again. So x1, y1, x2, y2. When I put in my points, my y2 is negative 4, my x is 5, y1 is negative 1, x is 2. So that's going to give me negative 9 over negative 3, which simplifies to just 3. So the slope is 3. Okay, so now you've seen some examples of finding slope with a graph. And you could also do this one with points too if you wanted to. You could find slope using just points, either way. So your job now, there's going to be a delta math that's attached to this classroom. So you're going to work on that delta math on slope review. And as a bonus question, what is the linear equation that uses slope that you may have learned in your algebra class? Answer that question, and that'll end this lesson. Do the delta math for homework tonight, and then tomorrow we'll talk about, well, linear equations. Good night.